it's fascinating to watch Republicans and the federal government essentially use the shutdown and not use neutral language in announcing the shutdown and the furloughs, and essentially saying President Trump wants the government to be open and Democrats don't. I know we're no longer, we're numb to sort of how much Trump has politicized every aspect of governance, right? From the military earlier this week to the Justice Department with the Comey business to now the government shutdown. I mean, it is now just sort of the norm for this administration to politicize everything. In fact, a few hours before recording this, Russell Vought, the budget director for Donald Trump, he's been sort of every couple of hours announcing some cut or some rescission or some, funding stoppage or some furlough that is specifically targeted Democratic interests. So, for instance, he put this tweet out: nearly $8 billion in green new scam funding to fuel the left's climate agenda is being canceled. More info to come from the Energy Department. And the projects are targeting the following states: California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Do you know what all those states have in common? Says the host with the rhetorical question, knowing his audience can't say, I can't hear your answer as I'm asking you the rhetorical question. But if the answer was they all voted for Kamala Harris in the presidential election, you were right. They are systematically only targeting Democratic constituents, Democratic states. Earlier in the day, he pulled some funding for some New York City projects. Who are the two? Where are Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries from? Oh, right. They're New York City elected officials. There's a extraordinarily partisan nature. Again, you do the whole game. If Obama did this, the outrage, how come he doesn't govern for everybody? Donald Trump does not govern for the entire American people. In fact, he went to that crazy, bizarre, I guess wannabe TED Talk, the wannabe Pete Talk, what should we call it? Right? Where we're thumping their chest, trying to lecture career military men that they're somehow too fat to do their jobs. They sort of bragged that this is how, this sort of governing, and he sort of declared anybody that's a critic of him sort of an enemy of the state and all of that business. And again, I know we're numb to this. And again, I know yesterday I was talking about you can't get sort of so focused on Trump that you sort of lose the longer effort of going to talk to people that did vote for him for president. And I do think you have to strike that balance. And it gets to sort of the larger point I want to make today, and about what Democrats have given up over the last 3 months. There's a couple of ways you can look at the last 10 years of Democratic performance. When I basically mean, ever since the post-Obama era, right, where they've been in some ways riding on the fumes of the Obama coalition. Have Democrats been competitive because of how big the Obama coalition, and it was just slowly eroding away and it's kept them competitive? Or are they overperforming because there's a group of voters who don't agree with the Democratic ideas, but believe the Democrats are the adult in the room, while Donald Trump and his version of the Republican Party are the idiot teenagers, and they're kind of unruly and they can't be trusted? And I think this is one of those tough things to measure, but I can only speak from my prism and my point of view in the conversations that I've had with a lot of swing voters over the years and a lot of the independents over the last few years. And that is, Democrats would win over a lot of these sort of center-right voters because they were not being the idiots. They were not sort of being intentionally political just to make a point at the expense of just keeping the lights on for the government. And over the last few months, and it's something, and we've been tracking, and I've been talking about this a lot, more and more of the mindset of particularly, I think, the more activist wing of the Democratic Party has been like, why should we keep playing by the rules? We never benefit from playing by the rules. Those guys lie, cheat, and steal, and all they do is get more power. Why should we continue to try to be the adult in the room? It gets us nothing. Now, I'm not saying that that is the full mindset, but I told you, I said a progressive source of mine was sort of lamenting, I want my own Trump, who just sort of bulldozes his way and just says, no, we're doing it this way, and screw you guys, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm tired of, trying to do this, quote unquote, brick by brick, elected office by elected office. And it is, look, I get it, right? When you're out of power and you feel like, and you especially the absurdity, you're just like, I continue, I always have the flashback, and goes back a long way. So apologies to my younger viewers and listeners out there. But one of the great SNL skits of the 1988 race was when John Lovett was playing Michael Dukakis and Dana Carvey was doing Bush, and Dana Carvey was sort of like doing, all this, all these, his crazy imitation of Bush and all this stuff. And Dukakis at one point was, I can't believe I'm losing to this guy. And that's the mindset, I think, of a lot of Democratic-based voters, who are just like, what is happening? Like, I can't believe the public is buying this garbage, right? And there's no doubt. I think there's a lot of us that sit there and you're like, you can't believe. I mean, I have an old friend of mine who's not a political guy at all, but he's one of my best friends from high school. He'll text me about every couple of weeks, and he'll simply, and he's texted me this a few times. He goes, what in the world is going on with these people? Are they all insane in there? Like, and he's referring to just all political people. He's not a political guy. There's a reason results matter more than promises. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan has become America's largest injury law firm. For the last 35 years, they've recovered $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. It includes cases where insurance companies offered next to nothing, short of shortchanging, seeing if they could get away with it. And Morgan & Morgan fought back, and they won millions. In Pennsylvania, one client was awarded $26 million. It was a staggering 40 times the amount that the insurance company originally offered. That offer, $650,000, whatever it took to sort of get away without paying. So with more than 1,000 lawyers across the country, Morgan & Morgan knows how to deliver for everyday people. So if you're injured, you're looking for a lawyer, check out forthepeople.com/ToddCast or dial pound law, pound 529 on your cell phone. And remember, all law firms are not the same. So give Morgan & Morgan a look. Their fee is free unless they win. It's this group of people who I think Democrats risk disqualifying themselves from them too if they're not careful, right? They've been the adult party, right? As Donald Trump acts like an idiot, as Pete Hegseth embarrasses the military, there was a sense that, the Democrats were going to be the grown-ups. They're not going to shut the government down. Whatever you think of the Republican budget, the Republican proposal of a clean continuing resolution for another 6 weeks was actually a very reasonable proposal. And just like, the problem that Democrats have is that there's always a Chuck Schumer quote. And so while he's trying to be defiant in this moment, there's a quote that isn't that old where he says, I can't believe Republicans won't pass a clean CR. There never should be government shutdowns, et cetera, right? And I say this more as an open question. I'm not going to say it definitively. Politics is more binary in this country than it ever has been before. Do I believe there's an appetite for something new and different? I do, but until there's an organized version of something new and different, you're going to have most people pick between the least bad options in their head. But when it comes to things like redistricting, now forget it. Instead of having fair districts, we're going to have partisan districts our way. If you guys are going to do it your way, then fine, we'll do it our way. If you're going to play hardball, we're going to play hardball. The adult in the room constituency may only be 3 to 5 points, but I might argue it's the 3 to 5 points that have kept Democrats in the game. And what happens when you lose those 3 to 5 points? Especially if what you're selling ideologically doesn't play well with these voters. Many of them, I think, have held their nose and supported Democrats who they might believe are a bit too liberal for them, because they were going to be the responsible party.